Greetings! Welcome to 4th grade Reading and Language Arts. My name is Ms. Phillip. We're going to go through a few classroom rules before we get started. Our classroom rules include, if we're in the building, we're going to be using our looking eyes, our listening ears, a quiet mouth, helping hands, and walking feet. We're going to have a great time today as long as we follow those rules. If we are on a virtual platform, remember to mute your mics, be polite and respectful to your peers. And if you do have something to say, make sure you raise your hand. Whoa! Oh my gosh, it's raining cats and dogs out there. Man, that must be a huge storm. It's raining so heavy. What? Oh! You've never heard that before, that it's raining cats and dogs? Ever? Okay, so raining cats and dogs is a form of figurative language. It sounds crazy, but I'll explain it all. You probably thought I was talking about real cats and dogs raining from the sky. No, I'm going to explain. You guys made it. So we're going to be looking at two different types of language today, and that's going to be the literal side of language and the figurative side of language. Before we get into that, I want to ask everyone in the room, have you ever experienced someone using figurative language and it just didn't make sense to you? Like me saying that it was raining cats and dogs earlier and you're like, what? All I see is cats and dogs on my screen. So any examples? Has anybody experienced that before? Yes, Penny. It's raining cats and dogs. Okay, so yes, that's a good example that we learned about today. Anyone else? Oh, she is as fast as a cheetah. That's a great one. And then any more examples? One more. Mara. Oh, your grandma said that you have a heart of gold? That's amazing. That's a great compliment, and that's an awesome example of figurative language. So, figurative language is a language that creates a picture in your mind to give you a better idea or understanding of the idea. So, we're going to get more into, get into the meat. But before that, I want to say thank you for sharing those examples. Moving on. So, like I said, we're going to focus on two forms of language today, and that's going to be the figurative side of language, literal. Literally. So when something is literal, or we're taking it literally, words function exactly as they are defined. Can I have somebody please read the next line for me? Yes, Troy. Correct. It is used to mean exactly what is written. So an example of literal language would be, it was raining a lot, so I rode the bus. Remember that. Now let's look at the figurative side of things. So figuratively, we will figure out what it means. Can somebody please read the next definition for me? Awesome. Yes, Angelica. It means something that is other than what is written because something symbolic or suggested. Okay, so I need one more volunteer to read to me the quote at the bottom. Yes, Devin. I know it sounds weird. It was raining cats and dogs, so I rode the bus. So we see the difference, right? The literal side is saying exactly what he means. It was raining a lot, so I rode the bus. Now on the other side, he used figurative language and he says, it was raining cats and dogs, so I rode the bus. So they're not exactly saying that it's raining cats and dogs. They're using figurative language to portray or create an image in your head to mean something other than what it is. So, there are different types of figurative language that you can use to create those pictures or meanings for something other than what is written, and I will show you a few of them today. There are lots of great examples, but we're going to focus on 7 main categories. Now, we get a little cool in here. to have a good time because it's about to be lit. In the words of Travis Scott, let's go. It's all about figurative language. But you're going to have a good time, I promise. Let's go. Let's get it. It's figurative language, but don't you take it literally, the opposite of literal. Have you thinking critically? It's figurative language, but don't you take it literally, the opposite of literal. Have you thinking critically? Personification gives you the qualities to things that are not living, all like you and me. Words that imitate the representation of a sound that a word would make. Metaphor. A comparison is made. Not using like our ass. Her heart is a grenade. Using like her ass when you compare. Yo, that's a simile. That smile is like the sun. Ever take it like the sea. It's figurative language, but don't you take it literally. Hold up, DJ. We gotta hear that again because I think that's a great song. Let's start all over again. Let's get it. It's figurative language, but don't you take it literally, the opposite of literal. Have you thinking critically? It's figurative language, but don't you take it literally, the opposite of literal. Have you thinking critically? Personification gives you the qualities to things that are not living, all like you and me. Words that imitate the representation of a sound that a word would make. Metaphor. A comparison is made, not using like her ass. Her heart is a grenade. Using like her ass when you compare. Yo, that's a simile. That smile is like the sun. Ever take it like the sea. It's figurative language, but don't you take it literally, the opposite of literal. Now you thinking critically. It's figurative language, but don't you take it literally, the opposite of literal. Now you thinking critically. Idiom. Man, it's just an expression. Using words with other meanings to keep you guessing. Hyperbole. Extreme exaggeration. Used to emphasize a point. Wow, wasn't that an awesome rap? All about figurative language. Had you thinking critically. Time flies when you're having fun. Literally. No, figuratively. Anyway, we're going to get into a little bit more about figurative language and different types of figurative language. We're going to explore ideas like similes, metaphors, hyperboles, alliteration, onomatopoeia, and personification. So, if you're ready to have a good time, let's go today by talking about simile. Similes are a comparison of two things using like or as. All right, class, you already know what the deal is. Using like or as. Perfect. Some examples of a simile would be the metal twisted like a ribbon. She is as sweet as candy. You were as brave as a lion. And any questions about simile? No. So one more time, class. Using like or as. Good job. Next, we have a metaphor. So a metaphor is two things that are compared without using like or as, like its counterpart, a simile, the opposite. So a metaphor is two things compared without, can I hear? Without using like or as. Some examples of a metaphor would include the world is a stage. He is a shining star. The calm lake was a mirror. She has a stone heart. So, did you see like used at all? No. Did you see as used at all? No. So once again, a metaphor is two things compared without using like or as. So if you see a phrase or something that's like a comparison, but not using like or as, it's most likely a metaphor. Personification. So personification is one of my favorite types of figurative language. Personification is when you give human traits to objects or ideas that are inanimate most of the time. So an example of personification would be the sun danced, the water on the lake shivers, and the streets are calling me. Hold on. Hello? Is this the streets? I'm kidding. It's not the streets. So these are all examples of personification. Do you think the sun is actually dancing? No, but you're giving human-like qualities to the sun. Do you think the water on the lake shivers? No, but you're giving human qualities of shivering. So maybe they're saying the water on the lake shakes, but you're giving it a human trait. The streets are calling me. Do you think the streets can really call you? They do. Don't answer. But the streets are calling me is giving the streets the human trait of being able to pick up a phone and call someone or use a voice. But we already know the streets don't talk and the streets can't call. So you're giving human traits to objects or I. All right, everyone. This one is called a hyperbole. So hyperbole is exaggerating to show strong feeling or effect. Some people speak in hyperboles. They exaggerate everything they say. An example of a hyperbole would be, I will love you forever. That's a long time. My house is 1,000,000 miles away from here. She'd kill me. Am I exaggerating? Yes. So if it's exaggerating to show strong feeling or effect, they are using hyperbole. And that is a type of figurative speech that can go either or. It could make you understand like, wow, he really loves her forever and it sounds amazing. But then when it sounds like she'd kill me, whoo, it's a little scary. Now, do you think these people actually mean all of this? I don't think your friend would kill you if you told her a secret. She might be angry, but she won't kill you. And if she does, she'll probably go to jail. All right. Next, we have an idiom. Idioms are used as a common phrase or expression that can't be taken literally, like its dictionary meaning, but it's understood. So these are what I would say people use as a figure of speech. This is the example people always say, a figure of speech, when people don't understand. And culturally, what we say in America does not sound normal to other people. And that's usually what happens with idioms. They can either get lost in translation or because it's a phrase, is how some people would describe it. So if somebody says, break a leg, they're telling you good luck. If I say it's raining cats and dogs, I mean it's raining really hard. But like I said, culturally, some people don't use these phrases and these cannot be translated. And that's the danger of figurative language sometimes. But we kind of have our common ones that we know about, like break a leg and it's raining cats and dogs. Okay, so as I said, idioms are common expressions. And because they're common expressions, not everybody has had the common experience in the world. So we're going to go over a few of these because not everybody has heard them before. And maybe today will be your first time or your second time. But we're going to work together as a group to learn some types of idioms that could be used. So as you see, they gave us some examples already. So we have the idiom and then we have its meanings. So a piece of cake is something that is easily accomplished. Now, I would love for some participation right now, and can I have a volunteer pick an idiom and figure out its meaning? Yes, Garvin. A couch potato. That's an interesting one. Tell me all about a couch potato. What does that mean? Does it mean a tough situation, good luck, stays up late, you can't decide, or spends a lot of time watching TV? It's the last one. Awesome job, Gavin. Yep, a couch potato is a person that spends a lot of time watching TV. Since we already went over this one, break a leg, we already know that that means good luck. We saw that example just now. Can somebody please tell me what being in a pickle means? Yes, Kareen. Being a pickle. Okay, yes, a tough situation. So if somebody says, I'm in a pickle, they're in a tough situation. You can also say, I'm in a bind. That's a good one. Now, I need one more before we move on. Yes, a night owl. A night owl. Can somebody please tell me what a night owl is? Jamil. Yes, good choice. You are a night owl. What does that mean? It means that you stay up late. Ooh, during the summer, you must have been a real good night owl. Yes, so a night owl means that you stay up late. Good job. Now let's move on. Woo! So this is what we call an onomatopoeia. An onomatopoeia, a word that mimics the sound of the action or object it refers to. I love to say that. Onomatopoeia. Onomatopoeia. Okay. An onomatopoeia is a word that mimics the sound of the action or object it refers to. So an onomatopoeia sound would be like a sneer, a snicker, a giggle, whimper, bawl, squeal. So it's giving a sound to an action. Like a car driving by might roar or hum or purr or zoom or make a boom or a bang. And some animal sounds that could be onomatopoeias are like a woof from a dog, a tweet from a bird, meow from a cat, or even a purr from a cat, or the buzzing or chirping of a bird or a cricket or a bumblebee or a fly. So an onomatopoeia is a word that mimics the sound. Always remember, sound of the action or object it refers to. First and foremost, I want to say thank you guys for going on the figurative language journey with me. And remember, it's figurative language, so don't you take it literally. The opposite of literal got you thinking critically. If you guys need to go back to the rap, feel free. We learned about similes, metaphors, onomatopoeia, personification, idioms, and there's a lot more under the category of figurative language. We can go on to 27 topics. But I feel like the best way for us to apply that is by actually looking at a piece of literature that uses a type of figurative language that we learned today. And like I always say, if you can read it, you can learn it. So, alrighty, guys, I'm so glad you made it to our peaceful reading library. Today, we're going to read the book about Two Bad Ants by Chris von Allsburg. He is also the same author that wrote The Polar Express. And honestly, this is one of my favorites. Since we just learned about a bunch of figurative language, I want you to identify or recognize the way he may use figurative language in this book. Now, pay close attention to how the author is telling the story, and you're really going to enjoy this one. Let's go. The news traveled swiftly through the tunnels of the ant world. A scout had returned with a remarkable discovery, a beautiful sparkling crystal. When the scout presented the crystal to the ant queen, she took a small bite, then quickly ate the entire thing. She deemed it the most delicious food she had ever tasted. Nothing could make her happier than to have more, much more. The ants understood. They were eager to gather more crystals because the queen was the mother of them all. Her happiness made the whole ant nest a happy place. It was late in the day when they departed. Long shadows stretched over the entrance of the ant kingdom. One by one, the insects climbed out, following the scout, who had made it clear there were many crystals where the first had been found, but the journey was long and dangerous. They marched into the woods that surrounded their underground home. Dusk turned to twilight. Twilight turned to night. The path they followed twisted and turned, every bend leading them deeper into the dark forest. More than once, the line of ants stopped and anxiously listened for the sounds of hungry spiders. But all they heard was the call of crickets echoing through the woods like distant thunder. Dew formed on the leaves above. Without warning, huge cold drops fell on the marching ants. A firefly passed overhead that, for an instant, lit up the woods with a blinding flash of blue-green light. At the edge of the forest stood a mountain. The ants looked up and could not see its peak. It seemed to reach right to the heavens, but they did not stop. Up the side they climbed higher and higher. The wind whistled through the cracks of the mountain's face. The ants could feel its force bending their delicate antennae. Their legs grew weak as they struggled upwards. At last they reached a ledge and crawled through a narrow tunnel. When the ants came out of the tunnel, they found themselves in a strange world. Smells they had known all their lives, smells of dirt and grass and rotting plants had vanished. There was no more wind, and most puzzling of all, it seemed the sky was gone. They crossed smooth, shiny surfaces, then followed the scout up a glassy, curved wall. They had reached their goal. From the top of the wall, they looked below to a sea of crystals. One by one, the ants climbed down into the sparkling treasure. Wow. See them going through the window. Quickly, they each chose a crystal. They turned to start their journey home. There was something about this unnatural place that made the ants nervous. In fact, they left in such a hurry that none of them noticed. Two small ants stayed behind. Why go back? One asked the other. This place may not feel like home, but look at all these crystals. You're right, said the other ant. We can stay here and eat this tasty treasure every day forever. So the two ants ate crystal after crystal until they were too full to move and fell asleep. Daylight came. The sleeping ants were unaware of changes taking place in their newfound home. A giant silver scoop hovered above them, then plunged deep into the crystals. It shoveled up both ants and crystals and carried them high into the air. The ants were wide awake when the scoop turned, dropping them from a frightening height. They tumbled through space in a shower of crystals and fell into a boiling brown lake. Then the giant scoop stirred violently back and forth, crushing waves fell over the ants. They paddled hard to keep their tiny heads above water, but the scoop kept spinning the hot brown liquid. Around and around it went, creating a whirlpool that sucked the ants deeper and deeper. They both held their breath and finally bobbed to the surface, gasping for air and spitting mouthfuls of the terrible bitter water. Then the lake tilted and began to empty into a cave. The ants could hear the rushing water and felt themselves pulled towards the pitch-black hole. Suddenly the cave disappeared and the lake became calm. The ants swam to shore and found that the lake had steep sides. Where do you guys think that they're stuck? They hurried down the walls that held back the lake. The frightened insects looked for a place to hide, worried that the giant scoop might shovel them up again. Close by, they found a huge round disc with holes that could neatly hide them. But as soon as they had climbed inside, their hiding place was lifted, tilted, and lowered into a dark space. When the ants climbed out of the holes, they were surrounded by a strange red glow. It seemed to them that every second the temperature was rising. It soon became so unbearably hot that they thought they would soon be cooked. But suddenly the disc they were standing on rocketed upward, and the two hot ants went flying through the air. They landed near what seemed to be a fountain, a waterfall pouring from a silver tube. Both ants had a powerful thirst and longed to dip their feverish heads into the refreshing water. They quickly climbed along the tube. As they got closer to the rushing water, the ants felt a cool spray. They tightly gripped the shining surface of the fountain and slowly leaned their heads into the falling stream. But the force of the water was too strong. The tiny insects were pulled off the fountain and plunged down into a wet, dark chamber. They landed on half-eaten fruit and soggy other things. Suddenly, the air was filled with loud, frightening noises, and the chamber began to spin. The ants were caught in a whirling storm of shredded food and stinging rain. Then, just as quickly it had started, the noise and spinning stopped. Bruised and dizzy, the ants climbed out of the chamber. In daylight once again, they raced through the puddles and up a smooth metal wall. In the distance, they saw something comforting. Two long, narrow holes that reminded them of the warmth and safety of their old underground home. They climbed up into the dark openings, but there was no safety inside these holes. A strange force passed through the wet ants. They were stunned senseless and blown out of holes like bullets from a gun. When they landed, the tiny insects were too exhausted to go on. They crawled into a dark corner and fell fast asleep. Night had returned when the battered ants awoke to a familiar sound. The footsteps of their fellow insects returning for more crystals. The ants slipped quietly to the end of the line. They climbed the glassy wall and once again stood amid the treasure. But this time, they each chose a single crystal and followed their friends home. Standing at the edge of their anthole, the two ants listened to the joyful sounds that came from below. They knew how grateful their mother queen would be when they gave her their crystals. At the end, the two ants felt happier than they'd ever felt before. This was home. This was their family. And this is where they were meant to be. Alrighty, guys. So, what do you think about that book? Wasn't it amazing? Since we've learned so much today, I do just need you to do one last thing for me, and that's to complete your exit ticket for the day. I did provide a link, but this is a question you're going to be answering. And hopefully I get some really good answers. And tomorrow we're going to talk a little bit more about what we answered in the exit ticket. Other than that, so long, farewell, and have a great day. I'm going to take you to the link really quick just to show you what it's supposed to look like. It's going to bring you out and bring you to the website. And then after that, it's going to ask you for your name, and you should be good to go.